about our God-given rights and freedoms, it's this guy right here. I'd like to welcome Jason Miles up to the stage.
G'day everyone, you got me again, you got me on the 25th as well. I want to give a big call out to Malcolm Roberts. Thank you, Malcolm, and I think as the good doctor said, thanks for inviting people from different parts of the world, different parts of politics of the world to the stage today. It takes a lot of courage to do that, thank you. What we do know is that political lines are pretty dangerous, and Malcolm showed us a nice clean set of hills today by letting people talk up here who may not be with the One Nation party itself. Also want to thank each of you for turning up today. But I want to give a big thanks to Katie, and where's Jim Wilmot? Where are you, mate? Over there. These two people have been amazing. They have been carving a footprint throughout Queensland and down to Canberra about probably the biggest man-made threat to Australia, and that is the reckless renewables. I'm not here to talk about it, but these guys have done amazing work in exposing what this thing is doing to Queensland. I live in the south, we live in the South Burnett. You want to go up there are solar, battery and wind farms going up everywhere. They are disgraceful. And I'll probably talk about that on the 25th. So today I've got 7 points I want to make as I go through this. First of all, Professor James spoke about how politicians or political parties get paid. Just so you're aware, I want to put it out there, right? And it's not a shot at any political party except for the main two, maybe Greens as well. At the federal election, if you poll more than 4% of your primary vote, you get paid $2.91 a vote. $2.91. If you get more than 4% of your primary vote, $2.91. Now have a think about that. In the state election, it's 6%. And I think you get $3.30 for a primary vote. That's in the last Queensland state election, Labor and Liberal racked in $7.6 million. Now what might you do with $7.6 million bucks? Well, the Electoral Commission will tell you, Jace, you can only spend $95,000 per electoral seat. Well, Queensland's got 93 electoral seats. And to the professor's point, it is almost impossible for other people to make an impact because of preferential voting. So the job you have today is to go away and convince people that there are other solutions. Now, I'm going to give you my 7 tips about why digital ID is a bad idea today. Firstly, voluntary. What is the definition of voluntary? Well, if I asked each of you, I'm sure you'll have the same opinion. But if I asked Senator Gallagher, I'm sure she has a very different one. And as many speakers have said today, we saw what happened in 2020 when the federal government said it's not mandatory. The state government, Daniel Andrews, God bless him, I wish he would leave our shores. Daniel Andrews then pushed it on to big business, and big business forced it into policy. And as you heard today with Katie's husband, and if you know Jody Lowe, you'll be following him, you would have heard what happened to him. Or not him personally, one of the people that went for a job in the mines in central Queensland. He went through the process, had all his paperwork lined up. And then the final step of the process, you got to download the QGov app. As the last speaker, doctor, spoke about. You got it down, and that guy's going, you know what, I didn't take the shot in 2021, I'm not doing that. Find another job. So QGov is here today, in this state right now, as we heard as well. So voluntary takes on a very different meaning when you apply it through the lens of a politician that wears red, blue, or green. The second point I want to make today, I want to ask you a question. What have you tried to do in recent times that has met with government interference? Just have a think about that. Now, you'll have a different lens to myself, to Katie, to Jim, because we live in the bush. So, how about a state of emergency for 3 years? What did that do to us? How about I want to sell eggs? I need a permit. What if I want to put a shed up on my property? I need a permit. What if I want to expand my dam? I need a permit. What about I want to slaughter an animal, one of the animals on my farm? I need a permit. I need a permit for everything. Government overreach is beyond out of control. It is insane. They are in our bedroom. They're in our kids' room. Get out! The only thing at the moment that federal and state government are happy to give an exemption to are the people that want to rip up our national parks, our state forests, and kick our farmers off the land for this ridiculous net zero agenda. For that, you get an exemption. No permit required, no problem. The third point I want to make, and it's kind of touched on again today, but the laws, once they're here, they don't go away. And as the good doctor said, you might repeal 3 or 4 of them. Actually, not true. You might repeal one of them, 3 or 4 stay. And that it has a compound effect. It keeps going and going and going. Now, Malcolm Roberts and George, I think I saw George here as well. Oh, there he is, right there. Yeah, sorry, mate. These two gentlemen would know. How many laws were passed through the parliament, either state or federal, when no parliamentary sitting happened, basically, took place? There would have been a few, right? They were rammed through. You saw it with the Senate here. In Queensland, they didn't even, or in Victoria, they didn't even sit and legislation was pushed through. That is the people's parliament, and it's incumbent upon us. So God knows where digital ID will go once these politicians, state, federal, and even local, thank God we've got people like George running in local now. Well, he is a local councillor now. He's successful, congratulations. And a big call out to Alone as well. Thank God we've got people like that. The fourth point, Senator Gallagher, the minister for this thing. She came out recently, big boo, I don't like you at all, Senator. You might be a nice lady, but you haven't got Australia's intentions. Best interest. She came out recently and said not many Australians know about digital ID. Senator Gallagher, it is 2024. We have the internet. We have social media. You should make sure that people know about it. And when Hawke tried to get the Australia card through in '88, we didn't have no internet back then. We didn't have social media. Yet the people still knew about it. So Senator Gallagher, why don't the people know about it? Because you know what will happen. It'll be like The Voice. It'll be no. It's exactly what will happen. My fifth point. I'm pretty fired up today. I love getting fired up. What is the end game to digital ID? And a few speakers have expressed it. I think Daisy did a good job on it. What is the end point to digital ID? No one knows. The LNP here, Christofouli, has agreed to Labor's emission reductions. A big boo. So what does that mean? Well, it means your LNP party here in Queensland will be towing the Labor line. So what does that mean to you? Can anybody answer me that question? What does net zero mean to you? You can make every assumption you like, but you don't know, and I don't know. Maybe a few of them know because they're making it up as they go along, but they don't know, we don't know. What will that mean? Well, if you're going to get net zero, how do I get my carbon footprint down? I heard 2 astrophysicists talk recently, and one challenged them to any other astrophysicist on the planet. He said, come into my office and argue this with me. With climate change, first the temp goes up, then emissions follow. There's a lag time. Just let me repeat that. First the temperature goes up, then emissions follow. What are you being told? You're creating the problem. Emissions then temp. Utter bullshit. Not true. Another point of this is the administration of the digital ID. And this one hurts me a bit. I lived in Victoria for 17 years. My wife and I managed to escape in 2021. Came back home to Queensland, thank God. A mate of mine owned a cafe on Packington Street, Paco for the locals down there at West Geelong. During the lockdowns, during Danielle Andrews' 263 days of lockdowns, he knew 5 of his mates, 5 people that killed themselves because they were forced to lock down. They were deemed unessential, yet a brothel was deemed essential. You tell me how that is right. That is disgusting. And these politicians have no right to make those rules on us. What is this going to do to small business? What is the cost to small business? They got belted. The good doctor said, it might have been the professor, the transfer in wealth was huge. Small business cannot afford overheads. Katie was telling me about the cost of labour. This is Labor's fiscal policy. I don't need it. This is Labor's fiscal policy, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get wage growth up. Oh shit, I need that. We've got inflation. Oh, we better put wages up. We've got more price hikes. We're going to put wages up. We've got more price hikes. That's our fiscal policy. How do we deal with it? Oh, I don't know. Let's tax the people. Australia, you're in debt. Thanks, mate. $1.9 trillion state and federal government. That's your debt. That's $146,000 per taxpayer. And I hope all the people up the back who are walking past can hear it. You owe the federal debt $146,000. That is how much we are in debt. Not sure about you. My wife and I are taxpayers. I don't have 300k sitting in the bank to pay this back. So who's going to pay it back? And as Professor James said, it won't be us, it'll be our kids. The final one I want to talk about is risks. And I'm going to talk in a bit of detail here. Over the last, 13 months of my research, 65 government agencies have been hacked. 65. Now, I'll come to Malcolm's point about 42 or 44 in a minute. In the first quarter of 2024, there has been a 388% spike in cyber and digital crimes. 300, and that's not coming off a small base. That is coming off hundreds of companies, and I'm going to pull out about a tenth of them shortly. A 388% spike. I don't know about you. I'm not putting my stuff in the central hands of a government. Trusting the government is like trusting our daughter, Jeffrey Epstein, with our daughters. You're not going to do it. In 2020, security experts warned the Australian public. They said, don't use MyGov ID because the system has a flawed design. They put it in the public domain. Do not use it because the system is built on a flawed design. You know what happened in the months to come? 42 or 44, Malcolm, I'm not sure, breaches occurred. That's what happened. One thing most people don't know is the good old Privacy Act. We think we do. But cop this. In the Privacy Act, there is special exemption for certain state and federal departments that they don't have to report on breaches of data security. Compulsory data security. It's an oxymoron. They've got an exemption where some, not all, they don't have to report on breaches of data security. You still want to trust digital ID. They're not even telling us the numbers. Does that sound familiar to the last 4 years? Absolutely it does. Government has continued to tell us furphies, they've continued to lie, and when they lie, there can never be trust in government at all. At all. Now I want to list a few businesses here that have had a breach of recent times. How am I going for time, Katie? I'm alright. Excellent. You've got to hear a bit more. Let's go. And this is going to be like, if you're old enough like me, you remember saying the Big Mac in under 4 seconds. Watch this. Qantas, Ambulance Victoria, First Mac, Oracle, Smoke Alarm Solutions, Telstra Opticom, Roku, Suncorp Bank, Diabetes WA, Motorcycle Holdings, Vans, Fujitsu, McDonald's, American Express, Royal Australian College of General Practitioners, Zerco Data, Epic Games, Microsoft, Tangerine Telecom, Australian Human Resources Institute, Europcar, Central Coast Council, Football Australia, Canberra Medical Centre, Optus, CBA, Super SA, Sony, Alfred Health, Australian Federal Police, Uni of Sydney, Tesla, Judo Bank, Vets Affairs, Victorian State Government, PayPal, South Australian Liberal Party, Big Boo, South Australian Liberal Party, Australian Defence Force, I do need that back, Northern Territory Government, Toyota Medibank, NAB, Coles, TAFE, Tas Government, Crown, thanks, Canberra Health Services, Quantum Radiology, Nissan Australia, Binge, Dan Murphy's, Guzman and Gomez, The Iconic. That's just a handful of companies that have had a security data breach. And again, you still want to trust the government to have your digital data in one place. I'm going to leave the best one for last. The IMF, the banking cartel of the planet. They had a breach. The same ones that are in bed with the WEF. And I can finally get rid of this paper. Because if you don't think the web's in our backyard, this is from the 2016 LGAQ conference. Thank you, Heidi. 2016 LGAQ conference here in Queensland. That says New World Order on the front. That's 2016. The guest speaker. You want to read the books he's written? It sounds like the Communist Manifesto. He is a young global leader of the West. This has been here for a while, folks. And if you have any doubt that these globalists are infiltrating our country, just listen to Senator Estimus, listen to the good Senator talk, listen to Rennick, listen to Antic, listen to all the people that see this. It isn't hard to have decent conversations with your friends. And these very people are telling us it'll be okay. It sounds like Who's that? Is it Glencore, the company at the moment that's trying to dump 133,000 tonnes into the Great Artesian Basement? We believe nothing will happen. Piss off. Piss off. Don't you touch our Great Artesian Basin. That's for our farmers. That's for our primary producers. Not interested in what you might believe in. Your beliefs and reality are far apart. So let me ask you the people, as Malcolm said, our Constitution starts off with, whereas the people, not whereas the Parliament, whereas the people. Get it back, Australia. It is there, it's sitting there, we own it. But we've taken our foot off the accelerator for some time, and we have been hitting our brake because we are moving into a nanny socialist state, and we have for some time, and I've been as guilty as the next person. But that time is up for me. I want to close with this, because you've got to have good news, right? If this bill does go ahead, let's just hypothesise for a second. There must be a charter, and I'm going to ask Malcolm on this one, and Gerard and any others I know in that parliament. If this bill goes ahead, there must be a charter enshrined in laws with a letters patent applied, which they typically do, but they change it anyway. That digital ID will always be an opt-in solution for those that want it. I don't, never will. I don't want to touch the thing. I think it's dangerous. Regardless of any state of emergency. We saw what the state of emergency did here in Australia. It suspended everything. The only thing it didn't suspend were politicians' privileges. They still got paid while we didn't. And their big buddies in corporate got hundreds of thousands, millions of our dollars while small business was slaughtered. That's how much your government loved you. And that was a Liberal government. That was Morrison. Two sides of the one coin, my friends. So, it can't be tied to any state of emergency or any other deemed or perceived threat. Because remember, the WHO is talking about a perceived threat. None of that applies. It has to be 100% optional. It can never be tied to any benefit or service, whether in government or private. Ever, like it's happening now in Queensland, right? And we can't have states controlling Fed. So the Fed has to write the law because the water can't rise higher than its source. So the Fed has to do it, and they have to knock out these people who are forcing people to download stuff they don't want to do for the sake of some other agenda. It can't touch our income, and above all things, there must be options available to people like you and me who will continue to say no. Thank you, Brisbane.